Hi, welcome to the HK podcast from Zero to Streamer, the social media journey. In this podcast, we dive deep into the world of social media streaming, unraveling the step by step journey of becoming a successful content creator. Each episode features interviews with seasoned streamers, social media experts, and influencers who share their stories, tips, and lessons learned. Whether you're starting from scratch or looking to level up your streaming game, we'll cover essential topics like building an audience, selecting the right platform, creating engaging content, managing mental health and monetizing your stream. Join us as we explore the highs and lows and everything in between on the path to turning your passion into a thriving career in the digital world. Whether you're into gaming, lifestyle, music, or vlogging, this podcast will help you find your niche and thrive in the competitive world of social media streaming. Today, we have our very first special guest. Welcome, Kai.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, HK. I love it. I love your podcast. This is so great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have our very first guest on this journey, and also a guest who has recently transitioned from having a more traditional career into a social media career, which we'll cover. But before we get there, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into streaming?
Sure. So, my name is Kai, formerly known as Chef Kai. So I was a baking and pastry chef and baking and pastry instructor as well. And I went from doing what I really loved in the baking and pastry industry and in the chefing industry to podcasting. And when I got into podcasting just opened up a whole new world for me on the social media side. Um, and I had been hearing so much about, streaming, and streaming was, the way to go now, and especially when you're looking for a additional source of revenue, that streaming was the thing. And I've always liked to speak and talk about different issues. I've always incorporated like life advice and motivational things into the baking and pastry world, into the chefing industry. And so I decided to take that over to social media and combine the two with baking and cooking and talking and it just, one thing led to a next, and I resigned from my actual business, from baking and pastry, um, from being a small business owner to the content creation world.
Which is where I met you. Um,
Exactly.
we met on TikTok, and I am quite familiar with your streams on TikTok. But I know that you just mentioned that you have a podcast, which, by the way, y'all, is great. So make sure to tell us what the name of your podcast is. But besides your podcast and TikTok, what other social media platforms are you on?
I am on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, which is actually where it all started. I used to go live on Facebook, and Facebook was just the thing for me. And then I migrated over to Instagram. So I just ventured into Twitch. I'm not so sure how I feel about it. Does that because that's really new to me. And I am on YouTube.
Fantastic. I mean, you're a few steps ahead because you've done a lot of the platforms, whereas I started with just personal accounts on the other and then going straight to full on social media on TikTok and now doing the reverse back into the podcasting world. What is the name of your podcast?
It's I
It's
always
okay. We're not on TikTok.
I
So
always
so you can say.
okay because I was like, oh man, this is gonna be
Oh,
crazy.
don't worry, we're not going to get a strawberry.
Okay, great. So the name of my podcast is the Bacon Bitch Productions Podcast.
I love it. And for those of you that are not familiar with TikTok, TikTok is just a whole different language, it's a whole different world of streaming. And there's a lot of censorship and like regulation when it comes to what you can and cannot say. And so I could sense her reluctance to say, and I'm like, don't worry, we're not gonna get banned.
It's so
Um,
funny because that was my name on TikTok when I first started streaming. And I would go into people's lives and they would go, "Hey, Bacon B, I can't say your name because I don't want to get strawberried." And I was like, "What is that? What does that mean? What do they mean?"
what's going on?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Why are you saying strawberry, not the word band?
Right, right. What is a strawberry? I didn't get any of that. But yeah, I changed my name as a suggestion of my manager in the agency with TikTok. And he was like, "Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things you can't do, a lot of people that aren't going to acknowledge you, and a lot of rooms you can't get into with that name." And then I changed it.
So are you keeping your current TikTok name for the other platforms, or you're keeping the original name? That is a tough choice as a streamer to
That is
always change.
very, very tough because I actually was just struggling with this last night, as a matter of fact, because the other platforms, half my platforms have Hey Kai. They have Hey Kai's, which we got from Hey Arnold. So half my platforms have the Hey Kai, and then my original, like the beginning platforms like YouTube and Instagram, they have Bacon Bitch Productions is my name on those platforms. So it's really hard because also my podcast is Bacon Bitch Productions. I have two cookbooks and my cookbooks are Bacon Bitch, and so it's like that's
Girl, I need
hard.
a copy of those cookbooks. What are we talking about here? Well, how come I haven't seen these cookbooks? That's a conversation for a whole other podcast episode, let me tell you. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned your background in pastry and baking and being an instructor, and then transitioning into this whole social media. Do you remember what was the nudge? What was it that inspired you to go into the podcast and to go live on Facebook?
So a little backstory. Cooking and baking actually saved my life. It saved me from a very dark space that I was in at one point in time. I didn't grow up with the ideal childhood. So my mom was an addict.
Mm.
And I'm the oldest of six children. And there would be times that my mom would be gone and I didn't know how we were going to eat, what we were going to eat, and I had to steal food for us to eat. And stealing things that are like frozen dinners, things that are already, prepared was not easy. So
No.
I literally used to have to get things that I could cook because those were the easiest things to take out of the stores or off the shelves. And mind you, at the time I'm like 12, 13.
Girl, as a parent, I have chills from head to toe right now with your story. Like, if I start crying, y'all don't mind me. Y'all know I'm emotional. And as a parent, having that thought, oh, my heart breaks for you.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I didn't know how to cook, but I had siblings that were like literally like babies, like they're small.
Mhm.
So it was like, okay, you got to learn how to let's bake a potato or mash a potato or let's cook some ground beef. And that literally was where it started for me. That was literally the thing. Like I found peace in preparing the food and making the food. I found peace in feeding my siblings. Um and I would find that the like I wasn't hungry myself. I felt like I got full off of the fumes, off the scent and the
Mhm.
fragrance from cooking the food. But more than anything, there was just this joy. There was this like pride, and this sense of accomplishment in that. And so whenever I would get into dark spaces in life, it was like, go bake something, go cook something, go make something. I don't care if it's a mess, let's just do it. I didn't have to be hungry to do it. I just had to want peace. And in the kitchen is where I found it. And
That makes
so,
sense.
yeah. And that's how it all got started. So my story was in my cooking. My story was in the dishes that I prepared. My artistry was in the things that I baked. And so one day I just decided, like, that's how I'm going to tell my story. That's going to be my therapy. I'm going to cook and I'm going to talk about these things, because food is considered comfort food, right? So I found comfort in what I'm doing, and it made it easy for me to be able to talk about the things that I have gone through. It made it more therapeutic for me because I felt that at the same time I was releasing these, past details of my life. I was also comforting myself with the food that I was making, and it made things lighter. It made them easier. And that's how it all got started. So I went from that to just wanting to talk about it more.
That makes so much sense because you are at such comfort and ease in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And as a streamer, you're multitasking so much stuff on the screen. And then I'm
Mhm.
sitting there thinking, how amazing is that she can keep a recipe straight and do all of these at such a calm and ease and grace while having the most beautiful outfits and telling the most hilarious
Thank you.
stories. And I'm sitting there like, how is she? But that makes sense. That is the thing that gives you peace and joy so you can find balance to be able to take on other challenges.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that's
Absolutely.
beautiful.
It's
And for those of you guys that have not been to her stream yet, y'all are missing out. Bring yourself some popcorn or maybe follow along the recipe because I'm telling you, it always takes a turn that you don't expect. Okay.
yeah, definitely. It's
I'm gonna ask you a question. I know what my memorable moment of watching your stream so far is, but can you share a memorable moment from your streaming journey that literally stands out to you as like a pivotal moment in your streaming career so far?
um there was a there was a time when I first started that I was just telling stories about, things that have happened in my life. And at the same time, I was cooking. And one of the viewers says, "This is your journey. It is cooking, comedy, and comfort. That is what I find in your life." And I go, "This is it. I'm quitting my job." Like, that was literally the moment. I was speaking of, like, the struggles of running a business, and the viewer says, your mouth, your gift of gab is going to be your children's wealth. Like, you're gonna leave something for them. You're gonna leave a brand behind just in what you're doing. Like, that's going to be your generational wealth passed down to your kids, what you're building right now. And that day, I started sending out emails to my clients, letting them know I was retiring and that this would
Oh
be
my
my
gosh,
last year
girl.
doing these things that
That
day.
is so inspiring. Like I'm literally like shaking over here because I told you how I feel about your streams and I mean like that was a lot more eloquent, but I start my day extremely early and by the end of the evening I barely have the capacity to process a cohesive thought. And then I have some streamers that I listen to, but yours is sort of like almost at the edge of my bedtime. And I find peace and calm and laughter and relaxation. Like I will go about like putting my kids to sleep with the headphone on, and then every so often you'll say something, and I'm like, I'm trying to, but those words that that person said is literally how I feel watching your stream. It's a little bit of inspiration. It's a little bit of like, oh my gosh, how is that story gonna end? And a little bit of laughter while like, what did I just hear? They did what? And this is real? And how is this not in the book? And then
So
if I fall asleep, I'm upset. The next morning, I'm like, how did the story end? And I'm waiting for you to come to my stream so I can be like, yo, hold on. We're going to ignore what I'm doing. What I really need to know is Was that person really in the attic?
And they really were. He really was.
Yeah, if you don't know the attic story, you're gonna have to go to her lives or watch one of her episodes that she's gonna tell you the story about the person in the attic. And let me tell you, I spent all night thinking about that all morning until she came in order to ask, and that's just one of the few memorable moments that I've experienced in your lives. Like there's so many I can't even count. Which is like super inspiring for new creators because um, just earlier today we were talking about how you feel like you're still a newbie on this journey and that you're still learning, and I'm sitting here from the outside looking like there's nothing newbie about you. But sure, you do you, boo. You want to pretend to be a noob? I'll go along with it. But there's nothing new about that. Just like the way that everything is carried, you can see that there's a wealth of experience to this point, you know?
I
Um,
think I think that the saying where they say, you fake it till you make it. Like, I don't believe in actually faking anything, but I do believe that sometimes when you think that you've made it at a certain point, there's so many new things being thrown at you, so many doors being opened, so many things you didn't know. And so I often feel like, okay, yeah, I'm very new. Like, okay, well, I thought I had mastered this, but now here's that. So I feel like I'm so new to so many things,
that's funny. I
especially
did.
watching you, especially seriously, listening to you, watching you, even hearing your podcast, and there's like a million aha moments. There's like, aha, oh my God, like what? Like there's always this moment, like, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh my God, that explains it. There's things that sometimes, we can't put into words or we don't quite understand. And then when we hear them from someone else, it's like, oh my God, she broke that down so simply. And so there's things like your words, even though you speak life and motivation and encouragement to people in the sense of like the social media world and the TikTok world, they apply to the real world. They apply to real life. And so much of the way that you motivate people and the things you say is like, oh, I can apply this to that. Like, this is, oh my God, like, this is not just a TikTok thing. This is a real life thing. You handle even like the craziest situations with so much kindness, because I watch you and I'm like, oh my God, I will block them. Oh my God, I would be so done. And you're like giving them a chance. Like, hey, are you going to be kind today? Are you, before I have to mute you, are you going to do this today? So much to the point where you have literally rubbed off on people that have come into your lives meaning to do the worst, and you turn them into someone completely different. And I find that to be so amazing. So I'm always feeling brand new in your life because I walk away from your podcast, from your life, from your information, feeling like I'm ready to take on new tasks on a new day.
Oh my gosh, that like brings so much joy because for me, connecting with my audience and being able to do those things that are relatable. I mean, I was a teacher in a real life. I'm a teacher on TikTok. Teacher is the core of my existence. When you said it, fake it until you make it. My motto has always been learn it until you become it. And
Oh, I love
so
that.
and I've given like TED Talks and like all kinds of things like related to this, like not like the full on the professional one. I mean like presentations and motivational speeches and things on a smaller scale about like you don't have to fake it, you just have to be willing to learn it, and then you will become what you're willing to expose yourself to it, and then there will be no faking because you did the trial, you went through the turmoil. And a lot of this process has to be open to a reciprocity with your community, a reciprocity with your viewers, And so I'm going to combine sort of like a two questions into one, which is like, how do you engage your audience, and what does your community mean to you?
So My community means everything to me because there is a bounce. There is a when it comes to energy, it's kind of like looking in a mirror, right? And so the people that are in your
For sure.
community, that are in your audience, that is like a reflection of everything that you are or going to do that day. I can have one thing in mind and say, okay, today when I go live, I'm going to talk about this. We're going to discuss that. I'm going to make this. And then I can get into that room. You can literally feel the energy on the
Absolutely.
other side of that camera. And sometimes it switches with a question. Someone can ask a question, someone else can be having a crazy day, someone can come in and say, you know what, I was having an awful day, this happened, and then now you're live and it just made my day. And then that will change the trajectory of everything I was about to say or about to do. That can change everything. Now this is what we're going to speak on. This is what we're going to do. I was going to make this. I'm going to change that because now the conversation has gotten heavy and I don't really have 2 hours to do this anymore. So we're going to make a quick meal, so that we can discuss this. But it means everything to me. It literally does. I don't discount or discredit not one person for any reason in my chats. I don't take it for granted one person's concerns or actions or anything in my chat because to me everybody matters, right? And when it comes to like
100%.
engaging engaging them, I feel like the whole world can unite over a meal. I
For
feel
sure.
like if there's one thing that everybody can have in common or can discuss, it's food. And it doesn't matter if you're vegan or if you're a pescatarian or if you don't, it doesn't matter. Some kind of way we can all connect over a meal, or over stories of a certain meal. Most of our greatest memories come from something that we've eaten. If you watch a certain movie or a TV show, you think to yourself, oh my God, I have to fix my dinner or my snack to watch this show. Some people have a emotional attachment to food. So when it comes to engagement, I often find that I'm able to easily engage with anyone and everyone of all different backgrounds in my audience over food. Um, and it doesn't have
100%.
hmm it doesn't even have to be the meal that I originally intended. I have my viewers have taught me how to make things that I haven't made in my career.
Oh, we're
Um,
going to have to make a special episode for Brazilian trades.
oh my God, now that would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. Yeah, there's so much. So sometimes, they're engaging with me and I'm engaging with them and you just find common ground. In any situation, you could be dealing with someone you don't like or, it's there's common ground and my common ground is food. And so it's just and I feel like
I
that's.
like your common ground. I'll tell you that. As long as there's no cucumbers or nuts in my cookies, okay,
I
we can
got you.
talk,
I got
right? Just,
I got you.
just no cucumbers. No, no, no. That's another episode. We could literally do a whole entire episode on just how serious people take silly things like pineapple on pizza, raisins on a potato salad. Like seriously, people will have like wars over this. I'm not
So
kidding you.
question, do you like raisins in your potato salad?
I do not. I don't like raisins in any of my food. I like raisins in trail mix.
Yeah. Listen,
Okay?
I
Raisins don't
actually
belong anywhere else.
right. So I actually have this thing when it comes to like raisins and like dried cranberries or dried fruits, period, that I always say they just belong in like trail mix. Like,
Yes, occasionally, maybe on a salad. Like if it's
mm,
really hot summer day and I'm like drinking a Arnold Palmer, like, and I could use like a cold crisp salad, I could go
That
for that. But that's like the extent of it. It has to be a perfect day. Kind of like Legally Blonde, it was April 27th, not too hot and not too cold kind of thing. Or you can just wear a light sweater.
I do like me a good cranberry apple chicken salad. So I can definitely eat it in a chicken salad.
Yeah. Cranberry sauce belongs on ice cream.
I heard you say that one day in the live, and it was like the funniest thing. He was like, "Why are you putting fruit on your food? That's a topping. That is a topping." And I remember laughing so hard. You were so passionate about it.
Oh, I am. And I can be really, and like I'm telling you, like you bring up the community and food and bringing it together, and I can see it because we get so passionate over that family recipe, over that traditional cookie, over, all of the things that surround food. Like I live in Utah. That is Mormon land, which is like baking land, which is all about traditions. I mean, every day I open my door, there's a new cookie outside the door, and I'm like, oh, which neighbor did this come from, and what do I have to bake now, and what do I have to, because it's so meaningful to everyone around. So I can totally see how heavy that is with your community, and streaming can be heavy on you too. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of reciprocity from one end to the other. It's a lot of give from the streamer to the viewer. How do you prepare yourself? What is a streaming day look like to you?